welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're doing well. Welcome to another video and welcome back to another reading tag. Today I'm going to be doing the Romance Reading Journey book tag. I am doing this in collaboration with a bunch of other booktubers, so I'm so excited to be sharing this video with you, but I will go ahead and link all of the other collaborators in the description box below so you can go check out their channels and their video as well. So the collaborators on this video are Beccie at Beccie Reads. She is the one that asked us all to come together and she put this all together. So thank you so much, Beccie, for asking me to be a part of this. I had so much fun planning with you guys. Then we have Ava at Ava's Romance Books, Bree at In 11 Words, Caitlin at The Love Librarian, Crystal at Crystal's Bookish Life, Jess at Honest Fiction, Jackie at First Lady Reads, Kelsi at Ruffalo Reads, and last but not least, Sam at Sam Reads a Little. So all of us as a group came up with 10 questions talking about our romance journeys as individuals and how it's helped shape our reading experience. There are so many fun questions to talk about, so I'm not going to yammer on too much longer. So without further ado, let's get into question number 1. So question number 1 is, how old were you when you started reading romance, and do you remember the first romance you read? This is an interesting question because I have been reading since I was, 5, 6. I always loved books. I always loved picking up books. It was always something that I found great joy in. So I cannot remember the very first romance book I ever read, but I am going to tell you some of the first ones that pop into my head when I think of romances in general. So of course, the Vampire Academy series, even though it is a fantasy, it is highly revolving around the romance in that book series, which is something that I always was drawn back to. We have things like the Perfect Chemistry series, Vampire Academy. There are just so many that I read when I was much younger that definitely sparked my love for reading romance books, but in that time I was definitely reading a lot more fantasy romance than I was reading strictly romance. Question number 2 is, did you deliberately seek out romance or did you stumble upon it, and how? Now for me, I deliberately looked for books that had some type of romance plot to it, whether it was a strictly contemporary romance or if it was a fantasy romance. I was always going and looking for something that had romance to it. I was, a young teenager that wanted nothing but to be in love, and so the closest thing I got was reading books. So I definitely was seeking it out. I was looking for books that had some type of romantical plot line. It wasn't everything that I read, but it was a majority of what I read. So definitely didn't stumble upon it. It was something I seeked out deliberately. Number 3 is, did you start with traditionally published or indie, and has it switched? Yes, I definitely started out with traditional romances when I was much younger. Even as I was starting my romance journey in 2020, when I started picking books back up again, it was strictly traditional romances that I was reading. And all of a sudden, I got an itch for some dark, smutty romances, and I just fell down the rabbit hole of indie romances, and it has very much switched. I find it's very hard to please me when it comes to traditionally published romances anymore. I'm definitely more drawn to indie published romances, dark romances, just things along those lines, reverse harems. So I'll definitely say there's something that has switched for me in the past years, and I'm not mad at it. I'm loving my new journey for sure. Question number 4 is, what was a romance trope you were afraid to try but ended up loving? For me, this is definitely second chance romances. I find that a lot of the times when I think of romance, I don't think of something that has happened in the past and these people are rekindling a relationship that they've had. I never thought of it as something that was always super romantic until I started reading more and more second chance romances, and I found that there's something quite beautiful and wonderful to watch characters that have already fallen in love with a past version of each other finding new ways to love the new version of who they are, and working through some of the past trauma and things that they've had to deal with in order to be a successful couple. That was always a trope that I was definitely so scared of, but now that I have learned and found what I like in that specific trope, I'm always happy to pick up a second chance romance. Okay, question number 5 cracks me up, but is there a romance book that you read early on in your journey that you would rate differently today? And that is absolutely 100% yes. There are so many books that I think back on and I look at my ratings and I'm like, are you okay? And the first one that comes to mind, and I'm sure this is the same for a lot of people, but the first one that comes to mind is 50 Shades of Grey. Like, it was bad. Like, very, very, very bad. Like, I don't understand how I loved it so much. And when I tell you I loved it, I was reading this in high school, and I think I've read it probably 7 or 8 times each book. And they're chunky books, and I read all of them so many times because I was obsessed with the series. And then I read it again in 2020 and I realized how terrible they were. But even now, as I've read more romances that are so much better than what that was, I would still probably rate it even differently now if I reread it again. So that's definitely one. Another one that comes to mind is the Crossfire series by Sylvia Day. That is a series that I just fell down the rabbit hole and absolutely loved. But I feel like if I read it again now, I wouldn't love it as much. So I feel like it's a good thing as your taste and the books that you read change and evolve, so does your ability to kind of see the things that aren't as good in writing. But that is definitely one that hurts my soul a little bit that I rated so highly when I first read them. Number 6 is, how has your taste in romance evolved over the years? I would definitely say that I now prefer something that's a little bit more darker, a little bit more heavy on the content warnings, the trigger warnings. I do like a very good, emotional, deep, hard romance read, whether that is dark in regards to like mafia, blood, gore, you know, that situation, or whether it's dark in regards to the content. I just find them to be so much more rewarding when I read them, and I find that the relationships always feel more worthwhile by the end when I read books that are like that. Whereas before, I would just read light, fluffy, easy to read romances because they were fun, and not saying that the darker reads can't also be fun, but it's just something that I have found over the years that I just personally prefer. I do still read light, fluffy romances, preferably indie light, fluffy romances, but the dark ones just seem to hit somewhere in my soul. I don't know what that says about me, but I do be loving them. Number 7 is, what is the most powerful romance that you have read that has left a lasting impact? And this question really hits home for me because I feel like when you read, you want to take something away from it. And I feel like a lot of the times when people think of romances, they think that they're light and easy and they don't count as reading, which piss off. But I love finding a romance book that sits with you and you know that you can constantly think back on, and just it has such a lasting impact. And for me, that is Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. This book just totally changed the game for me. Another one that I would highly put up in that category would be Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. Like, those two books, dark in content for sure, very, very hard to read, but also just something that I will never forget. I constantly think back on them. They are the two books that I want to recommend the most readily, but know that they're not going to be for everybody, which hurts my heart, but I understand it. And I love it. I love them both so much, and they have definitely left a lasting, lifelong impact on me for sure. Now we're on to question number 8. What is a romance book that told you this is what I'm looking for in my personal life and or a partner? This is a hard question for me because a lot of the times when I read romance, I'm not really looking for the things that I have in my life right now. I usually will read things that are kinks that aren't my own, and relationships that I could never quite handle. So it was really hard for me to think of something like this, but I think I have to say that it's something along the lines of Long Shot, Block Shot, and Hook Shot by Kennedy Ryan. They are all filled with men that are so devoted to their counterpart, that will do any and everything to be with them, is willing to put aside everything in order to make their relationship work. And those are the type of things that I look for in romances, but also something that I have with my husband. So I don't really find myself saying this is what I'm looking for in my life or in my partner, but more like being able to say, like, this is what I already have, and it's so beautiful to see it working in other romances as well. That may sound cheesy, but I love my husband. He is great. Don't get me wrong, he's not perfect, but I feel like a lot of the things that I see in romances that really hit my heart are things that I experience in my own relationship. So I don't know if that really answers the question, but that's as good as it's gonna get. Okay, question number 9, we have, which romance book or books would you recommend to a romance newbie as well as a seasoned romance reader? So for me, I feel like as a romance newbie, I would recommend anything like the Brown Sister series by Talia Hibbert, the Off Campus series by Elle Kennedy, if you're looking for something that is, well, it was indie published, it is now traditionally published by somebody else, I can't remember. Those would be like the two that automatically come to mind. I'm like looking at my shelves trying to see if I can see anything that I would recommend. Those are the two that automatically come to mind in regards to like ones I would highly recommend. Also the Romance Book Club series by Lisa K. Adams, if you're looking for something that is lighter, easier, fun to read, not too dark in its contents. Those are the ones that I would highly recommend for a newbie romance reader. And then if I'm recommending things to a seasoned, advanced romance reader, I would definitely say anything by Kate James. You guys no, I love a good Tate James book, but her Madison Kate series, her Hades series, her Guild series, all of them are fantastic. If you're looking for a fantasy romance, the Kit Davenport series is just great. Anything Why Choose is definitely my go-to in regards to recommendations. I've talked a lot about Kennedy Ryan. I mean, there's literally so many that I would just like off the cuff recommend, but if I had to, if I was making one my personality, it would be Tate James for sure. Okay, and finally, number 10, hardest question on this list. I'm afraid to answer this, but in your eyes, what are 3 perfect romances? Who the fuck knows this question? Like, this is so hard. I've read so many fantastic romances. But if you know, I had to pick, if there was a gun to my head and they said, pick 3, here are my 3, okay? I'm still afraid to say it out loud. I'm going to pick Surrender and Dominate by Amy Dawes. This is the 4th and 5th book in a series, but they follow 2 of the same couple. So I'm grouping this as one. But this is a fantastic romance that I absolutely love and adore. It is a sports romance. You have a stylish female character. The male main character is a soccer player, football player, whatever you want to talk, however you want to say that. And it plays with the roles of dominance in this series quite a bit. There's also a single parent trope. And it's fantastic. I love it. It's so amazing. I have to do a reread, but if I had to pick one, that would be one. Number 2. This is so hard. I'm going to pick Twisted Games by Anna Huang. Even though I loved Twisted Hate more than Twisted Games, I feel like Twisted Games is one of those books that you just can't help but root for the characters, and I feel like the 2 of them worked so well together that I just had such a great time with this. This is a bodyguard princess romance, and it was just chef's kiss. Amazing, gorgeous, wonderful. Highly recommend that one. And then if I had to pick one more, why do you hate me? I'm going to pick Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This is not a perfect book by any means. I feel like there's definitely some interesting things that happen in this book that are very you know, not to everybody's taste. The ending got a little crazy, but the core relationship of this book is perfect. 10 out of 10, 100 out of 10 if I could choose. It's amazing. I love it. It is a small town, grumpy sunshine, hate to love, forced proximity romance with a little bit of fake dating. Like, I'm sorry. Say less. I cannot wait to read the second book in that series, but literally everything about the first book I love and adore, and if I had to pick a perfect book, that would be my 3rd one. I will stand by those decisions, but it pains me to just pick 3. So there you go. There's my answers. I want to say a huge thank you again to Beccie for giving me the opportunity to collab on this romance reading tag. I had literally so much fun thinking about these questions and answering them. I would love to know down below what some of your answers are to the questions down below, and if you want to post a video on it, make sure to do so and tag me and any of the creators so that we can go watch it. But I really appreciate you sitting down to watch this video. I am excited to see all the other creators' answers and hopefully get some fantastic recommendations from them. If you aren't already following the other creators, please go check them out in the description box below. Check out their videos, subscribe to their channels, give them all the love. But that's the end of this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give it a big old thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave. And of course, leave any comments, questions, and suggestions in the comment section below. And I will see you in the next video. Bye. Thanks, baby. Turn it down like a sweet and ready. Keep it nice and steady.